The views and opinions expressed in the following podcast do not necessarily reflect those of the producers, the affiliates, or digital platforms hosting this podcast. All content is for the purposes of education, conjecture, and at times entertainment. We promote inclusiveness and diversity. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to Into the Deep with Jay Costa.
Welcome to Into the Deep. I'm Jay Costa. I am elated about today's guest, someone who, in my eyes, is a true Renaissance man, someone whom I've had the pleasure to tour with, someone who is an artist in the purest sense. He's an author, a photographer, a musician, a creative through and through. Today's guest is Burton C. Bell. From his work with Fear Factory to his work with Ministry and some of his other projects like City of Fire, to his even more emotive, expressive, and artistic endeavor, Ascension of the Watchers, a name inspired by the esoteric writings in the Book of Enoch. Ascension of the Watchers is a creative journey that Burton feels is envisioned to draw the minds, hearts, and aspirations of a people to a higher level of thinking and feeling, brought together to reflect in the beauty of life through these melodies and words. We talk about a myriad of things, everything from Ascension of the Watchers' newest album, Apocrypha, and some of the paranormal activity that occurred during the recording, which happened to be done on the grounds of an ancient monastery in South Wales. We talk about Burton's inspirations, his love of sci-fi, fine art, as well as his aspirations and some upcoming projects and releases. So, join me as we seek light and journey into the deep with Burton C. Bell. Enjoy.
There's a lot going on in the world, obviously. It's, times are changing. I have kids. I don't know about you. I have kids, and my son just turned 14.
Wow.
My daughter's 15, and so my youngest daughter is 13. So they're just, they're in that age. They're starting to see things, and I don't worry about it, but I'm concerned, about what's happening in the state of affairs of the world in general. It's nuts. I mean, it's nuts, and the things I've written about in Fear Factory over the years, I see happening, and the things that I haven't written about, I still have way more ammunition to use for future creative projects. I've been compiling notes and jotting down phrases and just ideas for my next industrialist novel. I released The Industrialist in 2015, which was my first graphic novel that I authored, and I didn't do the artwork, but I definitely was, a producer, a supervisor in doing the artwork in general. My buddy Noel Gard out of the UK did the artwork. He did a fantastic job. And we worked together and discussed how to do the artwork, but I digress. So I wrote that graphic novel for to go out with the Industrialist album that came out. So I wrote that story, but it took me some time to get that out, because I did it all independently, released it independently, produced it independently, published it independently. So it was only available through my website, and only 500 made, sold them out. But since then, finally to get around to my point, I'm like Abraham Simpson. I just go on and on. But so much has happened since I wrote that. I wrote that in 2012, came out in 2015, and so much obviously has happened since then. So much fodder for more creativity and more ideas that, I got a stack of papers and just to write about. And after the holidays, I'm going to, actually sit down and like finally get it all together because I've written so much shit. You know, I wrote something called the Mechanomicon instead of the Necronomicon. I wrote the Mechanomicon.
Wow.
I got something like that, which reads like some really esoteric prose, and it's all like in like almost binary, almost like in binary, but it's not numbers, but it's like it's just like 3 to 5 lines per paragraph, and it's almost reads like a Bible kind of like thing, or Nostradamus kind of thing about the future and how androids are supposed to relate to humanity. So that was something I wrote that's going to be added to it. But you know, so much has happened. You know, along with climate change, and which is, you know, we're seeing happening, you know, in real time, and it's real. And then the climate change, and then you know, obviously the pandemic, which may or may not be a result of climate change. You know, it's I heard a theory yesterday from a scientist in Australia saying that this is the proteins in this coronavirus has never been seen before. That it might be something that was part of an ancient world, you know, thousands of years ago, that has come up through climate change, thawing, permafrost thawing, that is coming up and rearing its ugly head again. You know, maybe some animal ate some carrion or somewhere, and then, you know, that's how it kind of progresses, you know, animal to humans. But who knows? It's a theory. Sounds logical since we've never seen this before. It's a very, very aggressive protein that no one can really understand. Then there's, you know, the climate of the American society and culture. It's, you know, I've never seen it this bad before in my 52 years. Never seen it this bad before, and it's, you know, it's become tribalistic, and that's what not America's never about tribalism, and it's become a tribalistic culture. You know, us versus them versus us. You know, just narrowed down to blue or red, and I'm like, you know, that means nothing. That essentially that represents no one, but people are holding on to it, and the fact that, you know, the two major media corporations are pretty much the source of all of the angst and the falsehoods. It's just ridiculous. It's so, in a nutshell, I got plenty of material to use.
I'd say, oh my gosh. I mean, I even remember, you know, even just lyrically in the 90s, you know, the words and the ideologies that were expressed in your lyrics that, you know, to today's standards, I mean, they're timeless in that regard, you know, because you can kind of, what were some of your earlier inspirations, you know, that got you on that trajectory to kind of see not a dystopian fear, you know, but
you know, definitely my love and fascination for sci-fi, and especially science fiction that really hit close to home. I mean, of course, I like really fantastic science fiction like Star Trek, or you know, fantasy sci-fi. You know, like Robert Heinlein, Philip K. Dick. Philip Dick is more psychological, but Isaac Asimov, you know, Philip K. Arthur C. Clarke. You know, sci-fi that really was kind of pertinent to the time that it was written, especially George Orwell. He's really pertinent to the time period that he wrote. And I realized that these authors are writing about what they know, but just really having a vision of pushing it forward and seeing how far it could go in their mind. And that is the secret, which is like actually taking that thought, taking that concept, and envisioning where it can go. And if you're clever enough and and if you observe the world around you, you can see it happening. You see all this happening right now. And like for instance, for demanufacture, I was writing about what I saw at the time. But if you put it into a futuristic tense, people are like, "Oh wow, that's fantastic." People don't want to see reality. You know, um, Rage Against for instance, if you're like a band like Rage Against Machine, they were writing. Zach was writing about what he saw and what he's experiencing, and so you become more of a protest statement, more becomes a protest type of band. But if you just take that term, just put it into a science fiction or story like context, people are like, oh, I don't have to really think about this. I can just move forward. So when it comes to music, people like to get lost in music, and that's something I thought about a long time ago. Folk music was more of the folk music, and long ago was more like protest songs, anthems, rallying cry songs for the worker, and from my lyrics are pretty much the same way. All my lyrics I felt like were discussing a very harsh reality, but I always felt there was a positive, ending. Excuse me, a positive ending or a positive side to it, and that's what something I always felt was important. Is like, look, this is happening, but we can change it. There's light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
So it's I even though I'm not in Fear Factory anymore, I still continue to think and believe these type of things and continue to write this sort of things. Not stepping away from who I am or what I've always been, just moving forward.
Right on.
So, plus, I like to write other stuff. Like Philip K. Dick, I like to put the social, psychological, more psychological, even spiritual context into science fiction, which makes it even more humanistic, I think, and more interesting because humanity, we're not cis. We don't think in black or white. We're just
right.
There's so much depth to humanity. And mysticism, spirituality, psychology is all part of it. So it's there's lots of other things I want to write about as well, but I feel like I have to get this out of my head first. And it's after the holidays, I'm really gonna sit down and just get it out.
Right on. Is that something that you feel like you have to do typically? Like you have to, when you have one idea, make sure that that's out of there, fleshed out, done, and then you can move on to something else? Like,
yeah, that's how I work. It's hard for me to work on multiple projects at the same time.
Gotcha.
It really distracts from focusing. It distracts from the whole concept of working on an art piece. I mean, people can do it. They can, there's painters that can work on several paintings at the same time, or people can work on several songs at the same time. For me, I just have to. I got the idea. I got to finish it, and let's get it done.
Yeah,
and just getting the basic idea. Then you can start editing or whatever. You know how it is.
Yeah, I can definitely align with that. What's that?
Are you still working on music?
Yep, still making music. We took a brief hiatus for a little bit, and then band member changes. Typical band stuff in the metal world. Somebody doesn't want to tour or can't tour, and then it slows down, and then the agents and the promoters quickly start forgetting. If you're not being played, on satellite or terrestrial radio, and so kind of goes hand in hand. So then we put out a single last year during the beginning stages of the lockdown. And so, yeah, we've got a whole record done, ready to go. Just getting mixed right now. So still going to put some tunes out there, for people to check out.
Absolutely. Any touring plans for you? Or?
No, nothing on the horizon just yet. Just no way of knowing. There was some plans to possibly go overseas, and then that got shot down because everything started changing again in the world. So put that on pause.
This Omicron variant is really changing things again, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's
hitting Europe and the UK pretty hard too. So it's disappointing, especially for musicians. It sucks that the music industry is not considered an essential business,
Right.
even though it employs millions of people around the globe. It's not essential.
Yeah.
Wall Street, that's essential.
Yeah.
Fuck off. The reason why we're all fucked up. The
Mhm.
reason why we're in such a fucked up state to begin with.
It's crazy. It's a sad reality, when you start thinking about cultures and civilizations, it's the arts that really define that civilization and
It is.
the people who create that, and that's what typically is left after them.
I agree.
So it's sad. I mean, as you know, in this country, I feel like musicians and artists aren't shown that same level of just honor and respect thoroughly. Appreciation. Yeah.
And it's true. Unfortunately, the music industry has a bad rap. And of course, there's always, our industry is full of colorful characters. Not the type of people that you want to have your children look up to, but not everyone's bad. But
right.
At least we're all following our passion.
Right.
At least we're all following what we feel is right, and that's why I think a lot of musicians always look younger, because they're following their heart.
I love that.
It's true. We're not appreciated as much as we should, and it's proven by how the government we're treated as not essential, and also proven how in the way that corporations can just rip us off, right in front of us blindly.
Yep.
By just taking, paying for whatever they want for our hard-earned work. Fuck that guy on Spotify. Worth billions of dollars. Off the backs of starving musicians that he's stealing from. Fuck him.
It's crazy because I feel like so many fans of music they're not as connected to it, and they don't see the ramifications of just streaming music instead of purchasing a song, and how this has just kind of gone down the line. Just less and less for the artist, less and less to even maintain what they're trying to do as a passion piece, and that for some it can't even be a job. Right.
And for me, for personal experience, I felt like I was a working musician, and royalties was not really something that I ever saw, but it was always touring. Touring is what it was all about. Royalties helped a lot, but if people aren't buying records, then that's really not helping.
Right.
It's just the music business has been depreciated over time. No one's buying albums. A&R doesn't exist anymore because there aren't anybody who believes in music anymore and feels that they can push the next thing. There's no money in music anymore because no one wants to spend money on anything that they're not going to get immediate return on, because no one's buying records and no one's supporting the music industry. No one's supporting music. The only thing that's being supported is the companies.
Yeah. Which is so crazy to think, because like you said, it goes back to corporations, right? And different, these different companies that can just basically do and say whatever they want. And it's seemingly they have more rights than artists, than even citizens do, it seems like.
They do. It's truly a sad state of affairs, and it definitely makes it a lot more difficult to be a musician these days. It's obviously there's big musicians, obviously, that have no problem, see no problem with how the music industry is, but these musicians are selling millions of records regardless.
Right.
And because they do so well, to give in, tons of money to tour and play, and it's like, it's okay. Now these days, it seems like these days you only gauged on how many followers you have on your fucking Facebook account, your Instagram. Well, you guys only have 2,000 followers, so how can you gauge? I don't see the numbers. I don't really see the numbers on social media translating into album sales or TV sales, regardless. Doesn't translate. I think there's has to be a whole new system. There has to be a whole new gauge of how to make things happen for musicians. And for me, when I'm going to tour, when we tour, I'm like, I got a guarantee, and I'm not going to do it without this. I need this much, and if you're not going to pay, then I'm not going to play there.
That's it.
I think musicians have to put their foot down and just like pay. Obviously, there's musicians that are starting off and wanting to do anything for free,
right.
But working musicians who've been doing it for a considerable amount of time have to put their foot down. It's like, look, I am worth this much, so you have to pay for it. And if you want it, you have to pay for it. If you don't, then you're not going to get it.
That's it. I couldn't agree more. And I think it's any wonder that sites like Patreon or things of that nature, like the GoFundMe's or anything artist related, where people can participate in the growth of that band and make their donations and get compensation by a product and or premiums, experiences, etc.
Right, but that's still sad. It's like. It's like it's not begging, but it's you're peddling more things than you need to. And you're doing it on your own. Record labels are going to be extinct pretty soon. But the fact that we're all boiled down to Patreon or crowdfunding sources, that just makes it even harder. It's just like, why can't we obviously we can't go out these days and play just like we used to, but touring and playing shows, that's the way we used to do it. Just, get the word out, grassroots, and play and get those shows in. Right. That doesn't even work anymore.
Oh, it's crazy. Do you think some of some of your earlier influences, right? I mean, we had some conversations when we had toured about just like some of the bands that we're into, they were sometimes a little bit below the radar, not always the most popular bands, but they just, what do you think it is that keeps those bands going or kept those bands going then?
Mystery. The fact that they still have a label that would push them, that would promote them, market them. Even though even if they weren't a big band, they would still get their record out. They'd market it, they'd push it, have a video of some sort. I hate lyric videos. I think they're the most horrible thing ever. I mean, they're like a step down from Follow the Bouncing Ball films back in the 30s and 40s. So, please. But that's my own opinion.
No, that's great. Because it's true. I remember the very first time I saw a lyric video, I thought the same exact thing. It was like just the
Follow the bouncing ball. We can all sing along.
Oh man.
Yeah. So I guess that's one thing I've always said for a long time, that one thing that is missing in music these days is mystery. There's no mystery anymore. And what kept those bands going back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and the early 90s is that there was mystery. There was no internet. You'd have to go out and you'd have to find a publication, following your favorite music mag. And it's like reading about new music and finding your favorite artists in this magazine, seeing where they're touring. It was information you had to really find. And people spread the word on their own. They tell their friends and tell their friends. But the music publications really pushed it, and the labels pushed it. So there was still a sense of mystery. You didn't know everything about the artist, but you had to find out. You really had to really search for and find it on your own. And are there any rumors anymore about artists? Other than people trying to cancel artists for saying something so offensive that, oh my God, I can't even think anymore. I'm so offended. I'm just going off my diatribe.
But no, but it's unfortunate. I've always felt like that, especially once that physical medium started slowly becoming extinct, because I don't think it'll ever become extinct, because we saw a resurgence in vinyl, and even cassettes are, people want that physical, but then it's like, how much of that is just the novelty of it versus actually,
well, cassettes is a novelty thing,
right?
I mean, I still have my dual cassette deck, and I still have my vinyl. I still have my record players, and I still have a CD player. It's for me, getting a new album. For me, is I like to sit down or put it on and listen to it, the whole album all the way through. It's like it's a ritual almost. It's like you get involved in the album, listening to it all the way through. That's how I listen to a record, all the way through. And especially when you had vinyl or even a cassette, you had to listen to it. You had to pay attention to when it stopped or when it was time to flip over the vinyl, and just like, okay, time to listen to the other side. And you paid attention to it. Now it's just streaming, just stream music, and it's just you don't really have to pay attention anymore. But when you do pay attention, for instance, like you listen to one of these satellite type of radio stations like Sirius or whatever, and you listen to a station for a while, like Boneyard or something. If you listen to it for a week, you learn that after that week, they start playing the same catalog again. They'll play the same catalog of those songs for that entire month. So you're hearing the same songs over and over again. Just like, just like radio stations, you would hear the same songs over and over again. But, it was free on the radio. You weren't paying for it, but you had to listen to commercials, but you didn't have to.
Right. I couldn't agree more with it being ritualistic, listening to a whole album, because for me, it's still how I listen to records, and I have my CD player, and, I still, whenever an artist still releases, a compact disc, I still get a compact disc. I still get a CD just to listen to the whole album. And one of the last albums that I had purchased on CD was actually Apocrypha, just because I wanted that full experience.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. And, it's great because it's like, I want to pull out the liner notes. I want to look at stuff. For me, I do it in stages. I listen to the record first. I pick up what I pick up. And then my next time around, for me, that's when I'll look at the lyrics and then just really absorb it on another level. And what is the artist saying, and really let it resonate.
Exactly. And you just said the key word, artist. And what you're holding, for instance, you brought up Apocrypha. For me, Apocrypha is a piece of art.
Yeah.
It is, not just the music, but the whole package. It's thought out. It was intentional in every respect, from cover to back. Every liner, every picture, every scratch was intentional. And that's what's lost on, these days. I believe that's what's lost, is like people understand this is a piece of artwork. It's not some commodity. It's a piece of artwork, and it should be listened to in its entirety. And that's what CDs were, and that's what vinyl was. It was just it was a piece of art we could actually hold and appreciate. And it's like people put them in their shelves, and they would look at them, just not even play them. It's like, wow, look at this artwork, and just check it out, and it could look like books. Just pull them out. But that's lost. I really believe that's lost today, and it's. God, here I go again, sounding like Abraham Simpson. In my day.
Well, I think there's something to be said. It can even, go back to just maybe even ancient knowledges as well too. When people started kind of, there was oral tradition. Then there was, writing, and then there was reading, and then there were books, and then there were Kindles. Like, it's just this whole weird, and I still find it weird that we would call this device that has books on it a Kindle. I just found that odd. Yeah, man.
Like, sort of kindling.
Yeah.
Like, just burn it. It's like Fahrenheit 451 all over again.
Totally. Read my mind.
Luddites would be demolishing Kindles left and right.
Just snapping them.
And then they would burn the books that they were publishing.
Everything must go.
Everything must go.
A literal fire sale.
Oh, good one. Good one.
But yeah, it's like, I feel like it's still preserved, the music and the art. And I think that's what's so beautiful is when for someone who can appreciate artwork and appreciate the music as art as well too, that's what keeps it going. I believe that resonates within the human psyche and their being.
Yeah, when you experience it in that way, it really affects you physically. It releases a dopamine that you don't get in any other form. Because it's almost a spiritual type of awakening or a spiritual experience when you actually connect with the album on entirety. It's like, oh my God, I get it. And it's like, oh my God, these vibrations are totally speaking to me. I totally feel it. That's what it's all about. That's what music's all about. It's about expression. It's about communication. It's about art. And I consider myself an artist always. And, and I will always be an artist, and I will always release pieces of art, is it either musically or visually. But, art is unappreciated as well. It's I don't know what to say. It's very unappreciated. That's why I want to surround myself with like-minded people who appreciate art as much as I do, not just musically, but visually, and who wants to achieve the same wants to achieve the same aspirations that I do of creating something fantastic, and and the pursuit of perfection.
Love that. That's awesome. I even loved when just the experience that you had when you were recording Apocrypha, that thing that was recorded.
Oh my God.
I got goosebumps because I heard about the story. And then when I finally listened to it, I literally played it back like 3 times. It was just,
it's incredible.
Wow.
It's really incredible. It's spooky because it's like, what? Even thinking about it now, I'm getting chills.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's loud and clear in my head. I have no idea what it's saying. It doesn't even sound English. Could be Latin for all I know. It could be Gaelic Welsh.
Yeah. See, I just got goosebumps when you said that too. So it was even just the act of taking that experience, right? That was clearly supposed to happen in that time and space, however this works, and then taking that and using that in your art. Like, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And, just finding those little nuggets and gems that are, happy accidents, or just, just like something, obviously whatever it was pushed through to make itself known. And it's like, all right, you made the record. So,
have there been any other experiences at that studio?
During the record, there was, but there was a couple more during the recording session that was pretty creepy. For instance, I was doing these, drawing on drum heads, right? And in Jace's control room, there was the control. There was his desk, and it was in front of the window, right? And then on the other side of the window was where I was doing vocals. I had the little vocal booth set up, and that was the middle room. I was set up in the drum room, and I set up in the live room, and behind me was a drum room and through another door. But so I was in the middle room on the other side of the window. But in the control room was a coffee table, big coffee table, and a couch, and that's where I was drawing the drum heads or whatever. And so one day we're just doing some vocals, whatever, and singing, and I'm not singing at this moment, and Chase and I are talking to each other, through talkback, trying to work out something. And as Chase is talking, I hear this calamitous sound just in the control room. I was like, he's talking to me. I'm looking at him, and he's talking to me. And he goes, I'm like, what the fuck was that? He's like, you got to come in here. So I open the door that you hear in that first part of that, before you hear that thing, I open the door to go in. And when I open the door, there is the drumhead at the door. I'm like, what happened? I go, we were talking, and he's the only one in the room. He goes, we were talking, and I see something at periphery from his eye. You see the periphery move, and we saw this moving, and then this thing that hit the door. So something moved the drumhead from the table to smash against the door, which was like 7 feet away. No windows open. That was one thing. Wow. And then there was another instance where we walk in. He's the only one with the keys to the control room, the keys to the whole studio. And we walk in, and we go into the control room, and he has this shelf of guitar heads, like Laney or Vox, whatever. Just a little shelf of control heads in the corner. It's like a corner shelf. And I don't know if you know Laney guitar amp. They're 50 pounds, right? This was like 4 feet off the ground. But we walk in, and this Laney guitar amp guitar head is literally hanging from a cord off the shelf.
What?
Like laying on the floor. I'm like, what the fuck happened there? No earthquakes. No one comes in. It was knocked off the shelf.
Wow.
So,
and that's not a light amp head. That's something that's got some weight to it, like you said.
Yeah, it's got weight. So we're like, okay, it's creepy. And I think, whatever it was, the studio was built on, well, a manor, but the studio itself was built on an ancient monastery. And there were still some ruins around, and the rocks used to build the studio were from the monastery. That there's rocks still sitting around, so he built it with the monastery rocks. So or stones, and whatever was still there. While we're recording, we just, just kind of woken something up.
Whoa!
And stirred the spirits, so to speak.
Man,
that was the. I really can't explain it, but I've seen some things.
Man, oh.
I've seen more ghosts than UFOs.
No kidding. Oh man,
I haven't seen any UFOs, unfortunately.
Right on. I thought I saw some a couple of weeks ago randomly, and then upon further research, it was apparently SpaceX launching some satellites, all in a line, and that's all I saw. Yes, and I didn't know about it, and I just happened to look up, and we were outside doing something, and just see this trail of lights, and my whole body was just excited. I was like, finally, I've waited this long, but yeah, Starlink.
No, I've been wanting to see a UFO my entire life.
Same.
Still haven't seen one. Not that I know of.
Right. For sure. I mean, now with, everything getting, there's some new stuff getting declassified, and there's, a lot of speculation as to several, obviously there's 17 agencies within the government that are all kind of trying to release the information in their own way. And there's theories that when it first gets disseminated, some may be false information to create some sort of false flag. And there's all kinds of stuff about it. So again, it's just control of information at that point.
Information control.
Man, it's bizarre to me. It was weird because there was like talks of, the sightings that were declassified right at the beginning of the pandemic. And it was like, no one was talking about it, or very few outlets were talking about it.
I know. Crazy.
Yeah. I don't know.
I follow this guy, Jeremy Corbell, and he's one of the more visible ufologists, as they say, out there. And, he's got some interesting footage, and he's got some interesting statements. But he's always got, it's mostly the footage that he has that's always pretty interesting.
Really?
Jeremy Corbell, I think is his name.
All right, I'll have to check that out. That's right up my alley. Oh man. So then we talked a little bit about, you talked about the Necronomicon, your
Mechanomicon, yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Forgive me. Mechanomicon.
It's okay.
Mechanomicon.
I have to write that before it gets used.
Yeah, you should. All right. I can delete this part if you want.
Okay.
But just how you were saying, like how it's set up in prose and almost like Nostradamus, like with, the quatrains or the lines.
Yes.
It seems like it has like that esoteric tinge to it, a little nod to, and I, speaking of nod, it's funny because, Ascension of the Watchers, I think of Book of Enoch and I think of those things. Care to elaborate on that? And just, is that where Ascension came from? The idea, the concepts?
Yeah, well, the Ascension of the Watchers was inspired by the Book of Enoch. And I was introduced to the Book of Enoch by reading another book by Elaine Pagels called The Origin of Satan. And Elaine Pagels is she's a religious historian,
Mm-hmm.
she's a historian who specializes in religion, of all religions, mainly Christianity. But The Origin of Satan was a really good book, and going through it, there was a couple of pages about the Watchers in the Book of Enoch, and I was like, when I read about the Watchers, I was like, what is this? So after I finished reading that book, I checked out, somehow found a version of the Book of Enoch online, and started reading it, the whole thing. I was like, wow, this is incredible. I started reading more about it, and it inspired me to create. That's what inspired Ascension of the Watchers. It's originally called the Watchers, but and that's what we were called the Watchers, and we weren't even like a developed band, and some band out of Chicago sent me a cease and desist letter. We're already called the Watchers, some reggae band out of Chicago. I'm like, whatever. So I just added Ascension to it. But I was already doing music and demoing and getting ideas down and writing lyrics. And when that idea of the Watchers came about, it just kind of just brought everything together and really solidified what I wanted to do with this music. And I'm very proud of it. It's I still reread the Book of Enoch and to see if there's anything I missed or see if there's anything I could read differently. And along with more of the Dead Sea Scrolls, it's quite interesting. But the Book of Enoch was an incredible tale. It's written before the Bible, and obviously after the Torah was written, but it was a group of just kind of nomadic tribes, Hebrews out in the desert, just writing about things they saw,
right?
Their visions.
Man, it was great when I remember first hearing about the band.
Excuse me.
Oh, no problem. Just hearing about the band for the first time and just that the name in and of itself resonating with me, and then obviously be like, whoa, all right, checking it out, and that's great. I'm thank you for sharing. It's so awesome because there's like these little nuggets that I see, even like on with Apocrypha alone, the title, and then also just seeing like things like that are even cosmic, like Cygnus, right? Cygnus Eon, like just thinking about the constellation and then the lyrical approach you took to it, just that it was really fascinating and really deep. And
thank you. I like to incorporate my love of the celestial bodies in space and the infinite and vast depth of space into my work, and create more spiritual, mystical. Just keep it on for me, that keeps it along the lines of what the Watchers has always been about. It's very personal, but it's still very part of this universe, and how the universe speaks through me. So, and always Cygnus Aeon. That was a fun one to do. I love the music, and lyrically it was interesting. But it was based upon the constellation Cygnus, which is the swan. Excuse me. Water. And one of the things I read about the constellation Cygnus is that it's flying into the mouth of the universe. That it's the way the constellation is arranged in the sky, it flies to the empty space between two different spirals in the Milky Way. When in ancient tribes, when you could look into the sky and see clearly the Milky Way, that there was a blank space in the sky. That's where Cygnus is flying into.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah.
Storytelling. That's what music for me was about, telling a story, communication.
Yeah.
And, and getting an idea across, and helping people come up with ideas and thoughts about something so simple that they never thought about before.
Absolutely. It's what music has done for me for as long as I can recall, listening to songs that moved me, and just especially I was always drawn to lyrics and images, just the allegory sometimes within those lyrics that just helped me see the world maybe in a different way, or it kind of made a little bit more sense.
Yes. And that's what music was about, is to make sense of a world that no one understood.
Absolutely. And I know you said this, the record's very personal, but it's written in such a way that, I think it's still very universal for a listener to take something from as well, too. Is that something you try to do purposefully, or?
Purposely, yeah, I guess so. But, when you write personally, I'm writing about things that everyone experiences and everyone can relate to. And, but I guess I do intentionally put it into a way where, if someone was singing a song, they could sing it about themselves. And to me, that's a good mark of a good song.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then it becomes timeless in that regard.
Yeah. Like you, I'm about the lyrics, obviously about the delivery as well and the music, but the lyrics, if the lyrics are pointless and meaningless, it's just it loses the scope, and it loses a little bit of the special quality that it could have had.
Yeah. Do you have maybe specific musicians that maybe you were inspired by, that where you kind of adopted these ideas or concepts, like, okay, wow, it's really cool how they do this, and like I want to do my thing?
Oh yeah, well, Nick Cave, obviously,
Awesome.
from Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. He's a storyteller, true storyteller. Even Bono's early writing Bono from U2, his early writing was just very deeply personal and almost on the spiritual side. And I really related to that in a lot of ways. And it was, for me, he really was singing passionately about what he believed in. Because I still believe that if you don't believe in what you write, no one else is going to believe it either. So you have to believe in what you're writing about and sing it passionately, or everyone knows you're going to fake it. Who else? What's his name? Sullivan from what's his name? Sullivan, from the singer of New Model Army.
Oh, okay.
His last name's Sullivan.
Yeah, why am I drawing a blank now too?
I'll think about it in a second.
Right on.
But he's a great lyricist, amazing, and he was he definitely wrote about the present times of what he was experiencing in Northern England and protest. But he was very lyrical and very poetic about it, and I really appreciated that. And then there was Andrew Eldritch from Fields Sisters of Mercy.
Yes.
Wayne Hussey from The Mission. Even God, I'm trying to think of other bands. There's so many, and not just contemporary artists, but even like artists from the 70s and 60s. Richie Havens from the 60s.
Oh, yeah,
with a lot of beautiful music. Bob Dylan, still.
Yeah.
I'm still amazed by Bob Dylan music. It's like, God damn, his lyrics are incredible. And it was just what a songwriter. I thought that Chris Cornell was an interesting lyricist, very abstract at times, but he was writing some cool stuff. And then, John Lennon and Paul McCartney, great lyricists, and George Harrison, great lyricist.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, have you seen that documentary I don't know if you have Disney Plus or not?
I don't, and I haven't watched it yet. Everyone's telling me I got to see it.
You got to see it. I've been watching it, and it's seriously long. It's like almost 3 hours per part. So there's 3 parts, but man, what an insight into an incredible band. And you watch it, and as a musician as yourself, I'm in a room watching it with people who are not musicians, and they're getting irritated by what's happening in this writing session. I'm like, dude, I experience the same shit. Like, the Beatles are doing the exact same shit we do. I'm like, they're just as dysfunctional as every other band out there.
Yep.
It's like, oh my God. Like, man, it's incredible. If you ever have the chance to see it, just take the time and watch it. You won't be disappointed. It's fantastic.
Absolutely. I want to. I'm a huge Beatles fan, so I'm sure I would enjoy it.
It's like, wow. It's like what they were dealing with and what was happening. And it's like, wow, it's just incredible. So, yeah. So back, Lennon, McCartney, even George Harrison, great lyricists, great songwriters.
Yeah. Wow. I know. And George Harrison, I felt like for the longest time, amongst my friends, I always felt like George Harrison was just such an unsung musician.
He was the dark horse.
Dude, for real. 100%.
He was definitely the dark horse of the band, and he had so much to offer. And he saved a lot of his good stuff for his solo work, which is even more incredible. He wrote a lot of good stuff for the Beatles, don't get me wrong. But
sure, yeah.
Yeah, but he wrote even better songs when he left the Beatles.
Almost puts it in perspective too. It keeps me, as someone who is a creative, as someone who considers themselves also an artist, because I love to create things and I love to express myself through the different mediums. It just, for me, I think it's great because you take George Harrison as an example. Like you said, some of his better stuff comes later on. It's like there's no time limit on it. If you're creative and you're exercising that creative part of your being, good stuff's going to eventually come out.
Absolutely. If you have a goal and you have a dream or a passion, just follow it and don't put a time limit on yourself. I mean, you should, eventually do it, but for me, I don't intend to retire.
Right on.
What I do doesn't have retirement age or limit, and I still feel I got a lot of great work come. Really, I really do, and not just music or writing, but there's other things I want to do too. I can get my photography out.
Yeah.
I even want to start painting again. That's what I want to start doing. I got this urge to paint so badly.
Really?
Yeah, it's just odd.
Huh.
I can't explain it. It's just like, God, it's got this urge to paint.
Wow.
I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because I'm getting old. That's what old people do.
No. One of those like wine and paint nights. Just like...
more wine than paint.
Just don't put the brush in the wine glass.
Oh yeah, don't go Van Gogh on us.
I'm going with Karen and Debbie down to the wine and paint. It's going to be fun. Come down. It's going to be good. Okay.
Thanks, Deb.
No, but you said like you're having this like something speaking to you about, wanting to paint. Like,
yeah. It's like this great urge within me, this great desire to paint, and I know what I want to paint. I just want to get it out. It's like, I want to paint this. So want to paint what I see in photographs, like my photographs. For instance, I don't know if you've ever seen the Numinosum album cover, but that was that was a photograph I took. So a lot of the photographs have that vibe. And I was like, God, I want to create that as a painting, and a lot of my photographs have that painting quality to it. So I was like, this would translate really well. So I wanted, I love Van Gogh, I love Monet. I love the abstracts. I love Gerhard Richter.
Yes,
I love Gerhard Richter. I love Lucian Freud. Great, the grandson, or I don't know, related to Sigmund Freud in one way or another. And Lucian Freud is a fantastic painter. But those are my top so far. I got a lot, but de Kooning was fantastic. It's something about it. I just love art. I've always been going to museums my whole life, and art museums mostly.
Right.
I got my favorites, and I was like, God, this urge. So something else I'm gonna have to do.
I love it. I think that's the beauty of it. Is like when you're creating and you're making something, right? It's for me. I always feel like it's an amalgamation of all of my inspirations and influences that kind of make who I am, but then it becomes my expression as I put that out there with my will, of course. But when do you think you finally realized or came to that point in your life that you're like, that recipe for how you create that works for you?
I don't know if I've found it yet. I just the desire to do it, really, and the knowledge of how to do it, and being educated in the ways of how to perform that just makes me want to express myself. Writing, photography, painting, just making it happen. And that's your desire has to be strong enough to get you to do it. And I think that's my desire is that strong. So I make it happen.
I love that. You're gonna have to go buy some paints and some canvas.
I'm gonna do it. I am. Just don't have the space for a paints place right now. Don't really have the space, but all I need is just a blank wall.
Right on. Yeah. I love that. And just, it's so fascinating to say, like, from your photography and how you see how you'd want to do a painting. I mean, it's still that same eye. It's coming from there. So it makes sense to me.
This is how I see the world. And, my photographs show what I'm looking at and what beauty I see in this world. Because, no matter how crazy this world is, there's still so much beauty in this world. And, there's so many good people in this world as well. Let's not get wrong. There's a lot of bad apples out there, but nowhere near as many as good people there is. And, it's just the good people are just being silent. So, but, beauty is everywhere in the smallest things, the simplest things. For me, I find inspiration walking out early of a freshly fallen snow in the morning, cold, and it's there's the silence of snow all around you, and then it's just quiet, and to me that's inspiration. That is beauty. And it's like something you rarely get to see, and it's like if you have a chance, do it. Go out there and check it out, because you'll never really experience anything like that.
I know we were talking earlier before we finally were able to get on Zoom, and we're on the phone. We're just talking about snowfall and like just how I appreciate watching my seasons change. So it sounds like you're
Same. Yeah. Fall. I love fall. I love the blustery wind. I love the colors. Spring is fine. I hate summer. Well, I hate the heat of summer. I'm just not a fan of heat. I grew up in Texas. I'm like, had enough of that. My whole growing up, I'm like, don't like laying like a slug in the middle of a humid day. It's like, can't breathe.
Can't do anything.
It's like trying to breathe through a hot, wet sponge.
Awful. Oh,
it's oppressive.
It really is. That's why I enjoy my seasons, man, especially fall. But
I love winter. I think winter's fantastic. I don't give a fuck what people say.
Right on.
To me, it tests your mettle as a human being.
Well put. I couldn't agree more. That's awesome.
You should do this again, Jay.
Dude, yeah, this has been great. I truly appreciate it. I would love to do it again if you'd want to.
Yeah, this is great. Like conversations with Jay.
Come on in.
Let's plan this again. I would love to do it.
All right. Let's definitely make a plan to do that. You are, in my opinion, one of my favorite individuals that I've ever toured with and conversed with.
You're a very memorable person. I remember touring with Die Will Be Done back in was that 2009?
9 or 10, maybe?
2009, maybe. I think 2009. You're right. But yeah, you were one of the coolest people on that tour. And just a sincere human being. And, I felt that we had, we were connected on a very mental type of level. So, I consider you an equal.
Right on. Thank you. I appreciate that. Likewise.
Well, thank you.
Well,
yeah, let's do this again, Jay.
Heck yeah. I would love that.
I still got a lot more to talk about. Like I said, I'm like Abraham Simpson. I could go on and on.
I love it. This is great. This is awesome. And, the topics are right up my alley. So this is just wonderful.
I got a lot more to talk about. I'm sure you do too.
Oh, well, let's make sure that there's a comma. There's a little comma there, not a period.
No, it's a comma.
It's a comma.
Semicolon?
We'll put a semicolon.
We'll put a semicolon there.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch The Dead Zone now.
I didn't even know he did a film. Christopher Walken did a film called Communion that I didn't even know about.
Oh, well, it's the Whitley Strieber book.
Oh, okay. See, all right.
It's based on the Whitley Strieber book about the alien experience that Whitley Strieber had, and so Christopher Walken was playing Whitley Strieber in the book. So,
see, I didn't connect the dots on that. Well, I didn't know about it, and someone had recommended it to me, so I finally watched it, and I finally watched it, and they said there are so many Walkenisms that please, you need to watch it and just quote it. And I said, okay, fine. And my mind was just blown with some of the one-liners in there.
Oh, Communion. The book is fantastic. You should read the book. It's really pretty freaking cool. The movie was good too.
Yeah.
But he did a great movie.
All right. Well, I've got to read the book now too.
It's an easy read.
Yeah. See, now I'm going to work the angle. I will do an audiobook of Communion as Christopher Walken.
I think you're onto something.
Yeah. Figure it out.
I think you could. I think you should.
Yeah. I mean, for a while there, I was trying to when I was learning some Japanese when we were over in Japan, I was trying to learn some Japanese so that maybe I could overdub some Christopher Walken films, and so be like,
Tanoshinde maska. Domo arigato gozaimasu.
Just things like that. So this way it would but I only learned a few things. Yeah.
Moshi moshi.
Sima-san. See.
So yeah, I gotta keep working. So maybe there's a niche here somewhere for me. I don't know.
I think you're gonna find it, Jay. You're gonna do well.
Awesome. Well, I don't want to tie up your day. I truly appreciate this immensely from all my
Glad we
heart.
made it happen. Thank you for calling me, and thank you for making this happen. And honestly, I do want to do this again. A great conversationalist.
Awesome. Likewise. And there you have it. I thoroughly enjoyed my conversation with Burton, and we talked about so many great things. We talked about how sometimes an album is written by an artist to be listened to in its entirety, and how for some listeners, they can listen in a very ritualistic way. We talked about some of our favorite musicians and authors. We talked about Nick Cave. We talked about early Bono lyrics. Talked about some of my favorite bands like Sisters of Mercy, New Model Army, and some of Burton's favorite authors. We talked a little bit about Elaine Pagels and that book she wrote, The Origin of Satan, and how it was an early influence and inspiration. We also talked about the Dead Sea Scrolls, along with the Book of Enoch, and some of Burton's favorite sci-fi authors, like Robert Heinlein to Philip K. Dick. I also enjoyed listening to Burton talk about his first independently released graphic novel, The Industrialist, as well as some new ideas that he has for a future endeavor or possible graphic novel that he is entitled The Mechanomicon. I am really looking forward to that, especially with the way he said he's going to be putting it together. And for those of you who may have missed the Facebook Live event that Ascension of the Watchers conducted, they let everyone know that their tour has been postponed, so now you can catch Ascension of the Watchers on tour in the UK this September, with some European dates to follow soon. It's amazing how timeless Burton's lyrics have been, even from the 90s to now. What seemingly is dystopian lyrics still have light at the end of the tunnel. And in my opinion, that's what a real artist does. They express themselves, impacted by the world around them, and a real artist like Burton still shining that light at the end of the tunnel. You can find Burton C. Bell on Instagram at BurtonCBell_official. And be sure to check out ascensionofthewatchers.com for more details. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Be sure to rate us if you can and be so kind. And if you're watching it, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as well as hit that notification bell so you can find out about new episodes. And you can follow us on Instagram at itd.jcosta, as well as on Twitter at itd_jcosta. Thank you all so much for joining me on this journey. Until next time, take care of one another and keep thinking for yourself.